transaction. Oh, hey, there we go. Holy crap. Okay, chat. How's that? Is that better? Thank you, Sean. I like the trial of style. Alright, well, now that that crisis is averted, let's hop out of here. I'm pretty sure everybody thought I was brain dead during that. So what I was saying before I realized that nobody could hear me, is that there's a reason that there is not broadcast going out to Twitch. And that's because I've been looking at how much Twitch has been utilized, or people have been watching it, and it's almost nothing. And so it is much easier and, from what I can tell, higher quality to go to just YouTube. And so I'm going to do that until people start to complain about it enough, or until I mean, I'll throw it up on Twitch now and then, and if it starts to get a little more following behind it, then I can go back to broadcasting to both and just kind of deal with the quality issues there. But we've got like 40 minutes left on Trial of Style, and I've actually gotten all of the rewards that you could want from Trial of Style, and I actually just enjoy it. I think it's fun. So I'm going to show you how to win Trial of Style, and it probably won't work, but this is what has worked for me the most. A couple of things that I can't do is rule number 1, be a female blood elf. Doing that will dramatically increase your chances of winning the Trial of Style, because that's what people want to look at. But beyond that, no matter who you are, it's not so much about the transmog. It is about the performance. So you really got to work it and sell it to that crowd to get people to vote for you. And we're going to attempt to do that with this one. Hopefully we get a good theme. And then after this, I have a couple of things I want to talk about that I've wanted to go into some more detail for a while now. I've touched on them before, but we could always go into a little more detail. Oh, goody. Well, this isn't the best one for what I'm trying to do, but let's see. We'll go with that. And we gotta find the ugliest things. Oh, that's pretty special. That's pretty special. Yeah. Where's those Cinderai ones? Right, and I've got mixed feelings about professional salesmen in general. Oh, there we go, spikes on it. That's good. No, let's do one of these. These could be cool in context, but out of context, they're really kind of terrifying. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of salesmen because I never feel like I can trust what I'm hearing. Oh yeah, those pants are so great. What do I do in real life? I do technical stuff. I was a systems administrator for 10 years, and right now I do kind of an obscure branch of programming. And yeah, the medical thing, that's more of a hobby than something that I guess I really do. I'm interested in my own health, and so oh yeah. Look at that. Let's go with the red one. Or maybe we should go with the bushes. Where are those? Or the oranges. And that matches too well. Oh, 30 seconds. Yeah. There we go. If we're going to do the bushes, we better put this on. Got to change the pants. Oh, man. The white pants. Oh, but look at those things. There we go, snaky pants. Oh, I mean, my kid's health as well, but I remember when I was a kid, and like the stuff that, oh, I guess we're using the shovel again. Okay. It's about the stuff you say, and it helps if you can type better than I can. I mean, there's a microphone in front of my face, and so I have to look at the keys to type. You know, I've been working with computers for 15 or so years, and I still have to look at the keys. Oh wow, this guy, that's really good. I love it when people really live up to the theme. You gotta give it to this guy though. He's even got the weapons in with it. And he's not even a demon hunter, so that makes me happy. Anyway, when I was a kid, I mean, we ate absolute garbage. Does anybody, if anyone's old enough to remember a thing called a Squeeze-It? Anybody remember that? I guess in today's modern society, it sounds like something horrible. But a Squeeze-It was basically a plastic replica of a glass bottle that contained nothing but high fructose corn syrup. It's literally the grossest thing that you could possibly eat when it comes to like how good it is for you and still considered edible by people. And we had those like crazy. And we ate like absolute garbage when I was a kid. So the thing is, you make yourself memorable. The trial of style is really no different from a job interview. You just want to be the one that stands out in a positive way. They still make Squeeze-Its. That is honestly horrifying to me. Oh, man. We got to go with that one. Yeah, no one ever have a Squeeze-It. Never ever do that. It is just poison. You don't want that inside. No way. Although, I mean, I do love pizza. See, this guy, I'm not voting for him because that's just an ironic slut mug. No way. That's not mismatched at all. So yeah, you talk to sysadmins, systems administrators, and there's one thing that they all tend to have in common is that, holy crap, which one? Those weapons are horrible. We'll do the panda. There's one thing that systems administrators tend to have in common is that they're ridiculously overprepared for things. Because that's really what you do all day is you plan on the worst case scenario and you prepare for it. And so that gives you a particular point of view of the world, is you see everything that can go wrong and you sort of expect it to. Now, that can get frustrating for people around you, but it also can also mean that you really don't run into a lot of devastating problems because you're so prepared for things. And there's stuff, okay, that's not bad. Taz Dingo. I always like to congratulate the person that won as long as they won with the theme. If they didn't win with the theme, then I don't like to congratulate them at all. Sneeze incoming. Holy crap. So anyway, I eat a lot differently than I used to when I was a kid because I care about that sort of thing. Let's see, we'll go one more and see if we can get a more interesting theme. And then we'll launch into some other stuff and I'll find something to go do. It's been a really long day. I've had about 4 hours of sleep in the last 36 just because of busy stuff going on. And it's kind of amazing that I'm as awake right now as I am, but this is typically the middle of the day for me because my schedule's pretty upside down. And so that causes some weirdness. These floaty disc things. Having one of those in real life would be kind of weird, because what if it hit doorways? Or, I don't know, maybe you could put some speakers on it. It could be like a boombox that follows you around. I guess that would be pretty cool. Like a Draenei floaty boombox. Okay. Whatever. Alright, this needs to start soon. There we go. Thank you, thing. I should keep that transmog all the time. It's disgusting. It's like a Squeeze-It that you can wear. Okay. It's gonna be the same one again, just watch. Somebody... 3 Death Knights? I guess I just don't need to do blue. Zen. How do you even apply that? What even does that look like? I guess I'll just do one of the cooler ones that I have. Oh, we gotta change the pants on that. I had that earlier. Now, some of these are from Moggin. I don't actually own all the pieces to them. The bear isn't very zen though. That's okay. We'll do Bilbo Baggins. We'll sell this one. See how it goes with everyone else. I'm pretty sure that people are going to try and do a monk sort of thing, but I don't think that's what zen is really implying. It's not so much monk. It's just being really chill and stuff. And I guess I guess Bilbo Baggins is kind of the opposite of Zen, but I think we can make it work. Oh, we still got a whole minute. Everybody else is slow. Let's go buy the disco thing.
Shall we get down to business?
Okay. Disco Bilbo Baggins. I kind of hope they... Humble? Yeah, Zen you could say is humble in a little bit, but I think Zen is more along the line of just having sort of a balance in your life. Having a calm, a peacefulness. You know, a lot of the Pandaren stuff. Because I've seen people that have a decent amount of Zen, and you wouldn't really say that humility sticks out for them. Their life doesn't have a lot of turmoil. You could even say that Zen is roughly synonymous with just being pretty chill. In a good way, not in a useless way. All right, so sometimes for this, and I know you can't see my chat, but I'm typing, I'm troll Bilbo Baggins, comma, y'all. And I'm just going to leave that queued up in my chat so that I can send that out. This guy's more Zen. When this starts, because you say something funny and memorable. There we go. There we go. I'm Troll Bilbo Baggins. Flex. Yeah, see, that worked. That guy lolled at me. Guess I should dance because of Disco Floor. And I said, people just remember Troll Bilbo Baggins. And then they'll see these guys and they'll think, oh yeah, whatever. Typical, oh look, a purple Death Knight. Oh look, a kind of bluish, purplish Death Knight, whatever. I still like this orc though. If you want to win this, then don't do what I just did. Don't vote for the same person twice. Vote for the ones that you think will not win to spread the votes around. And that can sometimes help. See, look, he's just using a lot of Pandaria stuff. This orc, oh, look at those pants. I just have to vote for those pants. Those are horrible. Yeah, in the chat, this guy's saying he just went for samurai, or the closest he could find in plate for samurai. And it's kind of one of those things that shows that people aren't paying attention to what the word means. And that's okay. They don't have to. I really want a permanent toy of this disco ball thing. It's pretty great. That was a short one. Not very many rounds for that. I guess somebody left. Because it's like an exponential difference when there's more people. Yeah!
For the horde!
Alright, we got enough of that. So that's how to win Trial of Style, is to be memorable. I'm really glad it worked, because I would say that doing it definitely has a measurable improvement on my chances to win, but it's not always 100% certain. So in case anybody wanted to know, this is what my normal purple transmog looks like on a troll, because that's kind of how I've got to do stuff now. This one's fun. Let's do this one for a while. This is those really cool shoulders that I actually got back in the day when they were new and current. They got these glowy fists on them. So what I wanted to talk about today, while I find some old raid to go and face roll for gear that I don't have. I haven't done Nax. What do I still need from Nax? I wanted to talk about 2 ways to enjoy World of Warcraft in a little more detail. Because like I said, I've talked about this a little, but not a whole lot. And just sort of my philosophy on where the game is and what I do in the game and why I keep playing, all of that stuff. Let's see, 10-man's got a buttload of stuff. I can't remember if 25-man has all the same. No, it doesn't have the same stuff, but it still has a lot of stuff. I haven't done 10-man in forever, so we'll do that. Okay. So if you go on a few places, specifically, you've got the official forums, you've got the MMO Champion forums, and then you've got trade chat. Those will be the 3 places that I'm going to refer to as the general consensus of what people think. So when I'm talking about what most people say or think, it's my observations from those places. And you'll run into a few different kinds of people. There are the people that think that you just complain about everything. The game will always have been better back in vanilla or in Wrath of the Lich King, and everything sucks now. And so then it's like, why are you still playing? And they can't answer that. Those kind of people who is just, it's always negative. And then on the other far end of the spectrum, you have people who think that the game is the best it's ever been right now, and there's nothing wrong with it, and it's kind of a head in the sand type of thing. Those people are very rare, and they don't really come into this discussion very much. But you mostly have people arguing about when the game was better, and it's either because they're invested in it and they want it to be like they think it was when they thought it was best, or they think it was best, or they just want to be negative about it because they're unhappy for some reason about something. And I do not take either of those points of view. I used to take the point of view where, well, the game would be better if we could change this. The game was better when this was different. And it's shocking to me how much it affects me, and I would assume that it affects many other people, how much it affects you when you hear that most people feel a certain way. It pulls you toward that decision probably more than we realize. So in going over, is the game good right now? And you can ask yourself that at really any point in the game's existence. Let's do Plague first. And the fact is, well, are you playing it? Are you enjoying it? That should really be enough. But we all want to think that the game is only good if not only are we enjoying it, but if everyone else is enjoying it the way that we do. Another good example of this concept is not so much when you're an adult, but if you remember when you're a kid and you want to show somebody something. You want to show someone something, and it's someone that you care about. Someone that you care about their opinion. So when you're showing them that, if it's a part of a movie or you're doing something in a game, you look at them to make sure they're watching. And you look at them to see if they laughed when you think it's funny. And you can tell some interesting things about people. Goodbye. You can tell things about people because when something is funny or they think something is particularly interesting or enjoyable, people tend to look at the person whose opinion they value most to see if that person shares their opinion. And if that person does, it very strongly reinforces that opinion. And if the person doesn't, it undermines it quite a bit. And so a couple of examples of this as applied to World of Warcraft. Somebody is playing World of Warcraft and they're doing something, like a 5-man or a raid with their guild, people that they're friends with and that they care about. and somebody starts saying that, well, the game isn't so good right now. It used to be better back in Wrath of the Lich King, and having multiple raid difficulties is really bad, and I just hope that we can go back to how it was because it was so much better. And that will challenge the opinion of the person in question. And what happens after that has a really big impact on them. Because if their guildies agree with that person, then it starts to make the person that we're thinking about, or the person in question, really agree with it. And they look for things that validate that opinion. Whereas if the guildies disagree and they say, well, no, the game is fun right now, then they hold on to that opinion and they look for reasons for that to exist. And so my whole point is something that Henry Ford said, applied a little differently. And I've mentioned this before, but Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right either way. And so I'll change that a little bit. Whether you think the game is good or you think the game is bad, you're right either way. Because there is always stuff you can find about World of Warcraft that is not as good as it should be, or that could be better, or that isn't the way you want it. And you can always find things that you enjoy. And so it really comes down to a choice. You have a choice. You can enjoy the game or not. And the fact is that lies solely in your hands. And people don't want to admit that, because then they realize that they're not going to have the majority of the community backing up their point of view. There's an episode of King of the Hill, which is one of the best shows ever, mostly because it is just simply one of the most real shows ever. The characters in that show are so believable because they're so relatable, because they're overdone examples of things that we deal with all the time, especially as you become an adult and have a family, and or become a homeowner specifically to that show. There's a lot related to that. I'm not getting anything that I want. And so anyway, in this particular episode, there's an election going on, and Bill and Hank are talking about the result, like how their voting went. And Bill said that his voting went good, that he was right 4 out of 5 times, which is exactly the wrong way to do an election or to vote. But people, they seem to get fixated on that. They want to feel like they're right. They want other people to validate their decisions or their point of view, to the point that there's something that we went over in psychology in college, the 2 basic drives in people. And again, I've talked about this before. There are 2 basic drives in people: to be right or to feel right. And they're not the same thing. There's a very important distinction. Feeling right is much easier to satisfy because you can fool yourself into it. Actually being right, and not just rub it in your face, haha, look at me, I'm so smart, right? But genuinely being not just correct, but right. So morally right, technically right, intellectually right. It's a big ask for people to live up to that. And so most people don't bother with that. That's too much effort. And instead, they settle for feeling right, because that's close enough to what we really want. Actually being right is far more satisfying if you're willing to put in the time and the effort for it. But it's more difficult and more life expensive. And so because of that sort of thing, the people that actually worry about being right are far less numerous than the people that just settle, that they suffice themselves with feeling like they're right. And so you have the majority of people wandering around, and as long as they can talk themselves into it, they have that satisfied. And people do this all the time with World of Warcraft because we want people to agree with us. And so We want other players to validate what we're saying. We want well-known players to validate our point of view about the game. It's creepy. It's up the stairs. Yeah. And so we want other people to validate us so that we feel like we're right. And this causes some problems because we're not actually forming our own opinions at all. We're just using a bunch of confirmation bias to trick ourselves. So, what's confirmation bias, in case anybody isn't familiar with that? It's simply the way that the way that you selectively choose the information that you're going to pay attention to or remember, and how that reinforces your opinions or behaviors. A perfect example of it is, let's say you get a new car or a new phone or something, and suddenly you start to notice that one everywhere. It's not because there are any more of them than there used to be. It's simply because it's the one that you pay attention to because it's yours. And so you start to notice it everywhere because it's more on your mind. And so that is the confirmation. Every time you see it, you remember it because it's something that you can relate to, something that's more familiar to you. And that's the confirmation bias. So you are biased, you are inclined to it. Thank you, Shaun of the Dead. You have yourself a good evening. You are inclined to that belief because things support it, even though it's completely artificial. And so when we're going around and looking for validation for our points of view, like raiding is fun, yes or no, and you'll have people say that yeah, it's great, there's good rewards and it's fun to get on with your guildies and do the raids and learn the boss fights and progress and finally beat the boss, and it's so satisfying when you do. Or there's other people who are like, LFR is trash and Mythic doesn't Mythic isn't any big deal, people beat it in a couple of days and so it doesn't even matter. And you have people saying all of these things that they always say, and if enough people say it, suddenly you start to think, well, maybe I should be agreeing with them because I don't want to be the one that's left out. I don't want to be the oddball here. It's human nature to want to fit in, to want to belong. And so if the belonging is a bunch of people being negative, then it means that the majority of people are going to end up being negative, even if that's not what they actually think. They've convinced themselves that that's what they think because it satisfies their need to fit in. I guess I don't want to stand there. I think everybody's coming to murder me. Oh yeah, here they come. Let's go around the corner. Run away! Okay, we'll get them. Here they come. Gross. Can you imagine actually being in this place? It's so horrifying. Maybe we got them all. Alright. 2 of those. Well, I can sell that. Okay. There's still another thing chasing me, but I think we'll be alright. So we gotta go get Grobulus. Grobulus was such a difficult fight back in the day when we were doing this, when it was current, because in Wrath of the Lich King there was a function called replenishment, which meant that as a particular DPS spec did damage, it would return a percentage of mana to the rest of the group. And we didn't have any specs in our raid group that had replenishment, and so our healers would go out of mana so quickly. And so we had to really... this fight ended up being much more difficult than it needed to be because we had to work around mana issues so much. And so we had our healers we had to have them solely focused on the tank because almost all the damage in the Grobulus fight is avoidable damage. And so if the DPS don't take damage that they can move out of, then they don't need healing. And so we had to essentially do the fight mechanics perfectly so that our healers would have enough mana to keep the tank alive long enough to finish the fight. And that's my memory of Grobulus. It's pretty crazy. Oh, hey, look, let's use that before I forget about it, because I'll sell that thing if I don't. Where'd it go? Yay! Some pants. Cool. It's weird to get all this gear again that I've already had, but that was before transmog and appearance wardrobes. Oh, hey, look, the biosludge is teleported to me. Cool. So anyway, back to people's opinions of the game. And so the negativity, it abounds because that's the easy thing to do. It is so much easier to bind people together by putting something down than it is by building it up. Because when you build it up, you have to defend that position, whereas when you put it down, it's really easy to just say that something isn't good or that you don't like it because it should be another way. And so it's easier to feel like you're right, and it's also easier to just have unity through negativity than it is through positivity. And so what does all this have to do with enjoying World of Warcraft? Well, the thing it has to do with it is that you have a choice to make. You can do what is fun or what is easy. The easy thing to do is to join the bandwagon and say, well, the game is bad because of this, that, or whatever reason, and it should be different, and it used to be better, blah, 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 all that stuff. Or you can do the harder but more rewarding thing, which is to have your own opinion, to think it through and form some original thought. And this is what I attempt to do. I say attempt very intentionally because I do not think... Oh, we can sell that sucker. I do not think that it is easy to do this. And so what I do is I look at the most hated expansion of all time, which is Warlords of Draenor. And so anybody watching, tell me if Warlords of Draenor is your favorite expansion, and see, nobody's going to answer. And if somebody does, then I'd love to hear some more details about that. So tell me if Warlords of Draenor is your favorite expansion. Or tell me if you unsubbed at any point during Warlords of Draenor. Tell me if you played less than you ever have during Warlords of Draenor. You know, what I'm establishing here is that it is, based on the community opinion as a whole, it is the least popular expansion in WoW's history. And I can find all the reasons for that pretty easily. The things that I didn't like about Warlords of Draenor was I felt, yeah, unsubbed during Warlords of Draenor. Somebody already said it. And so I didn't because I was busy making videos. But if I was not making videos and I didn't feel like I really wanted to keep that going for the people that actually enjoyed them, I probably would have unsubbed too at some point. I unsubbed once during Cataclysm and once during Mists of Pandaria, because during Cataclysm I had just come off of Wrath of the Lich King in a very successful, very functional raiding guild. And the guild had broken up right at the end, and I didn't get my Lich King kill the way that I wanted to. And so it was just kind of a bad experience. And so then to come into I unsubbed right during the transition from Wrath of the Lich King to Cataclysm, so I missed the actual Cataclysm launch event, which is one of my biggest regrets in this game, is that I was not around here for that, and I could have, or maybe even should have been, because I'll come back to why it should have instead of just could have. And then, so that was why, and it was only for a couple of months. And then I came back, and that's when I was like, I need to do something different. That's why I started playing a rogue, is because I wanted to mix it up a little bit. And I enjoyed a lot of things about Cataclysm, but I did not play with anyone. I was alone throughout the entire expansion for Cataclysm, and that was difficult. And so then when Mists of Pandaria got a little ways in, I got so burned out of it. And it was just daily quests all the time. Am I going the right way? Where in the world come on, brain. And so I unsubbed during Mists of Pandaria a little bit because I thought this is just not going anywhere. And so I finally decided I'm gonna go back and try again and try to do things I haven't done in the game. And that's when I started actually doing more RP in World of Warcraft, because I had previously never done it in this particular game. And I had a lot of fun, and that led to doing some pet battle stuff. That led to finding out that I actually kind of am good at figuring out pet battle stuff. And so I thought, well, I'll make some videos. And then, so here I am years later. But the reason that I stopped playing during those 2 points in the game was because I was alone, and because the play got repetitive.
Anyone care
Oh
to
my
wager?
gosh. Shut up. Okay, we're gonna make that quiet. Now they're not gonna talk anymore. All right, so those are the times that there was one other time I unsubbed, and it was between Vanilla and Burning Crusade. That's my other biggest so real quick, my 3 biggest regrets in this game are, number 1, biggest one of all, is missing 2 of the launch events, and that was for Burning Crusade and for Kata. For Kata, that was simply because I didn't handle the breakup of my guild very well, and I really should have, because it was not that big of a deal in hindsight. And then for Burning Crusade, it was simply because I had so much going on in my life that I did not have time to play. I wasn't very invested in the game yet, and it just didn't seem that important. I didn't think I would ever come back, and then I had a friend who wanted me to come play. And then, so that's the first one. The second one is I never got the title that I wanted the most, which is the Immortal. And my guild in Wrath of the Lich King, right before Ulduar came out, we were working on getting that, and we got to where one person died once in Heigen. It was the last chance we had to get it, and one idiot died once in Heigen. And that was the last wing we did to make sure that everybody, got stuff together and they could try. And one guy didn't do the movement right in Heigen, and he lost it for all of us. I don't even remember who it was, but that's what happened. One person blew that for me. I would still be wearing that title today had I been able to get it. And then my third regret is that I never took the time to get this special challenge appearance armor in Mists of Pandaria, and I could have. And that would have been cool, because boy, I really like the challenge druid armor. And the class hall armor is not as good. Let's pull up some Mogget here and take a look. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if we go through this is going to take forever. All right, this is the challenge appearance. This is really cool. In my opinion, this is just really, really freaking cool. I love this stuff. I like the little pokey things. I like the mistiness, and I like the colors and all that stuff. So this is really great. And then you have the class hall version, which is in here somewhere. If I don't find it soon. Nothing is ever simple. It's got to be around here somewhere. Well, anyway, maybe I'll find it. But it's a red version of the one I just showed you, but it doesn't have the pokey things on it. It doesn't have the... There it is. It doesn't have the pokey things, doesn't have the mist, and it looks a little unfinished, which is fine. I get that, because it's supposed to be not as cool as the original one, because that would cheapen it for people that work so hard to get it. But here's the problem with it. It's Santa Claus. And so I'm sorry, any druids out there, but as soon as I realized that, I can't unsee it. It's freaking Santa Claus. It is Druid Santa. I can't even wear this stuff and take it seriously. And I was so excited that it was like, oh, it's almost the set that I wanted. And so that's why that's kind of a regret. There's some other smaller ones, but they're not that big of a deal. And so, oh, let's see, where was I? I get so sidetracked. Hey, remember that video I made about the macro? Let's see if we can... You used to be able to pull Huygen with the fruit, but I think they might have broken that. Let's see if we can pull him with a bottle. Oh, you gotta go up here. Nope. Okay, well, just shoot him with the fire. Alright, so, the times I stopped playing were during those points in time. And I could have kept playing, and I should have. And again, I'll come back to why it should have. But let's take a look at the reasons that I stopped. Number one is because I was alone, and number two is because I felt like the content was tedious. But really, why was it tedious? Why did I find Mists of Pandaria? I remember when I typed into Blizzard, I had every expectation I would come back at some point, because I had already quit during the transition to Cataclysm and then come back. So I knew it's like I'm gonna play this game forever. And so then I came back, and I remember, or I was leaving, for a break, and I remember telling Blizzard, because it asks in a little questionnaire, and for products or companies I kind of care about, then I like to answer those. And I said, there's not enough to do. That was one of the choices. There's not enough to do in the game. And that's not true. I thought it was at the time, but there really wasn't. There was plenty to do. The problem is, I didn't have a reason compelling me to do it. Now, I've talked about this with game design and like why the Warden Towers are one of the worst features of Legion, because what's the compelling reason to do a Warden Tower? It is a PvE way to get honor. That's all. There's no PvP in Warden Towers at all. I don't know what it was probably Holinka, I guess. I don't know what he was thinking when he designed those. There's no PvP about them at all. And, that's a whole other discussion that was in another video. And so that's kind of how the daily quests in Mists of Pandaria felt. It was logging in and doing daily quests alone. That was almost all of my playtime. And I'm really glad I discovered pet battles, because that was one of the things that kind of saved me and enabled me to enjoy the game again. But the point I want to make is that both of these problems, well, the daily quests wouldn't have been that bad. I wouldn't have run out of things to do had I not been alone. One problem created the other. And so I was alone because I didn't take the time to find new people to play with. I was still missing the people I played with while I was raiding in Wrath of the Lich King. My wife wasn't playing at the time. She was just too busy, didn't have an interest. And so after Cataclysm, the raid leader that we had in our main raid leader, I would raid lead when he wasn't available, but the main raid leader we had, he stopped playing after Cataclysm, and he hasn't played since, because he got involved in other things in his life. And I think if you're going to quit playing World of Warcraft, that's probably one of the best reasons, other than you have too much of an addictive personality and it's causing you problems. But he just wanted to do other stuff more. And so all the people that I knew that I really got invested in the game with were not playing or had server transferred or something, and so I didn't have anybody to brag about my accomplishments to, or to hear their accomplishments and share that sense of doing something cool. And so because of that, I was alone. And because I was alone, the amount of things that I had available to me to do was very narrow, or that I felt like would be worth doing was very narrow, and that ruined the whole experience for me. And so I say that I could have kept playing, and it really should have, because the only reason I didn't was because of something I did to myself. I didn't take the time to go make new friends, because the community is negative, and I didn't want to deal with it. And so my answer to the community being negative was to simply isolate myself from it. And that, as it turns out, doesn't work. Because you need other people in a game that's as social as World of Warcraft. So the real thing is, the parts in World of Warcraft that were bad for me, I did to myself. Because I wasn't willing to do the better way. Remember how I talked about 2 ways to look at the game? One way is to just be negative and put it down and find camaraderie through doing that. And I don't think that's healthy. I don't like to do that. The other way is to put forth the effort and push through it and find what you enjoy and stick with it. To be right rather than to just feel right. And I didn't understand that at that time. And so then along comes Warlords of Draenor. And I had started to realize why I hadn't had fun in the game during Cataclysm and Miss Pandaria, at least not as much fun. I started having fun when I found pet battles and a couple of other things, and my wife came back and played a little bit, and that was always great, but she would only ever play for a couple of months at a time just because she was busy and all that. Oh my gosh, you guys, shut up. So I realized what was causing those problems, and I was able to see that it really was just me. I was creating all of my own issues, which is really, it's how life works, people. That's all the issues that you have, they're almost always your own fault. And even if it's something that someone else has done to you that's caused it, it's still, you choose how you process that, what you do with that experience or that information. There's a saying, a famous saying that says, nobody can offend you without your consent. And it's mostly true. There are some horrible things that people do to each other that are pretty inexcusable, but most of us never experience any of them. And so you might be one of those rare outlying cases, but for the average person, for the vast majority of people that live in something that you could consider what's called a first world country, if you can play World of Warcraft, you're probably not having to worry about any of those horrible things. And so you choose your own experience. Nothing. No new stuff. I've already got all this. This one's cool, though. I should use this more often. This is basically, I mean, this is like is it the Discipline artifact weapon or one of the holy ones? I mean, why do I ever need to play a priest if I have this? I basically have all the cool stuff priests have right now. That's pretty cool. Alright, it's Kel'Thuzad time. And hopefully, I don't even know if Kel'Thuzad drops something that I want anymore. Transmog runs are... I'm glad they upped the difficulty on some of these old raids a little bit. I'd like to see an option for personal loot. Maybe, because despite all the cranking that people make about that, I'm a big fan of personal loot. But that's another discussion. Anyway, so I caused my own problems when I wasn't enjoying the game, and so then here comes Warlords of Draenor, and I've figured this out. I've learned how that works. And so here's what happened for me in Warlords of Draenor. I had a great time because I took the time to go make new friends. I joined a raiding guild. And I did something new. I was a main tank for the first time ever. I had tanked here and there a little bit, but never really made it what I do. And so all through Warlords of Draenor, my job was main tank for that guild, and we went through the entire thing. I got ahead of the curve for all 3 tiers in Warlords of Draenor. And I've talked about that, how for Archimonde, by that point, the main guy our guild leader, he had to take a break from the game to deal with some family issues, and so the guild kind of had to dissolve, which was kind of terrifying for me at first, because it was, here we go again, I get invested in a raiding guild and then it falls apart and you think it's your fault or whatever. But it was okay, because I knew that I was capable of doing that content anyway on Heroic, even if I went and joined a pug to do it, or I think I actually paid for a carry spot because I didn't want to have to bang my head against that wall with pugs. I just wanted to get it done. And so that's something where I really don't care what anybody says about it. I even made a video about this a couple years back, where at first it bothered me, the idea of paying someone to bring me along in their raid just so that I can get ahead of the curve. I know a small regret is that I never got it for Garrosh, and I could have, because I'm a capable enough player to get basically anything at a heroic level. Mythic, not so much. I don't know if I can play at a mythic difficulty level consistently. I know that when I'm at my best I can, but I don't know if I can do it consistently, and I'm really sure that I can't do it with 5 kids and working 45 to 50 hours a week and other things in my personal life that require my time. It's just not something that fits into the kind of life that I have chosen to have. But during Warlords of Draenor, I had a lot of fun because I solved the underlying issue, and that was I made myself willing to go and make new friends. It sounds so elementary when you put it that way, but it's really true, and so I had fun. But there were bad things about Warlords of Draenor too. I thought that being alone and isolated in the garrison felt very familiar to the problems I had in Mists of Pandaria or Cataclysm. The game should be social, and there should be compelling reasons to be social in the game. And when those don't exist, you end up with the path of least resistance being stay in your garrison and play the mission table and log in every hour or so you can keep that to maximum efficiency, and that's basically your life except for raid night. And that wasn't super great, but on raid night I had a lot of fun. I even found myself trying to find reasons to force myself to leave the garrison, to where I would go and do things the hard or the slow way, and it just ended up taking too much time. And so that part wasn't great, but I still had fun because I was able to raid and kind of get that out of my system for a while. And so my whole point with this is that the experiences that I had during one of the most remembered and most liked expansions ever, Mists of Pandaria, and the most hated one, pretty objectively, Warlords of Draenor, I had the reverse experience of what the majority of the player base, at least vocally, experienced. Because most people talk about Mists of Pandaria now like it was the second best thing to Wrath of the Lich King. And at the time, people were not saying that. But it comes down to that you create your own experience through the choices that you make. And so you can join the negativity of the other players out there and let that be your point of view. And it's a very easy thing to do, but ultimately it is not fulfilling. It's not satisfying. It is empty, and it doesn't make you happy. It simply makes you feel like you are for a little while, and you have to spend an increasingly greater amount of your time and effort to maintain that sense of happiness, that artificial enjoyment, because it's all built on negativity. Oh, hey, look. That was one thing I wanted. I even remember having this thing back in the day. Yep. Staff of the Plague Hound. I had that for a little while until I got Journey's End, which I still have. To this day, this is my void storage, and I still have this is Journey's End. This is the exact specific item that I've kept all this time that dropped for me in 25-man Nax. It was actually like the second time that we beat KT back in the day, and oh man, I love the horsey staff. It's so cool, and I felt like, it was best in slot for cat druids, and I felt so cool getting this. That was one of the best experiences I've had in the game, is getting that staff, and I never sold it or disenchanted it or anything. This is the same one, and that doesn't mean anything because it's basically just a database entry, but there's some nostalgia you can apply to that, and I think that's really cool. And I've kept a lot of little things like that. Like, this is my Charm of Swift Flight from when I got Swift Flight for him back when you had to do the whole quest line to get it and whatnot. And there's other stuff like this is the Netherwing Commander's Badge. Some of these are quest items. I keep a lot of crap that is just kind of rare or cool to me. Like Lincoln's Boomerang. I hope they make this a toy someday. I mean, the Looterang is kind of the same thing, and it reminds me of that. But yep, I still have that. Can't get that anymore. This was the battered hilt weapon. I don't know why these cannot be transmogged. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, limiting holiday transmogs to only during the holiday, it's one of those things that is dumber than a box of rocks, in my opinion. You know, I agree with a lot of stuff Blizzard does, but that's not one of them. I don't see what it hurts for me to be able to wear that transmog I did during that mix and match thing, and that's okay to walk around in, whereas walking around in this hat is not. So, yeah. Anyway, so back to points of view with enjoying the game. You have a choice, and I choose to enjoy the game, and it really comes down to rice. Let's roll the dice with this. So think about a scale. Now, this is an old-fashioned scale, one of the ones that has like two little buckets on either side, and they're balanced. And if you put stuff into one side of it, it will tip that way. If you put stuff into the other side of it, it'll tip that way. And so let's imagine that you have grains of rice, and you can start putting them in one bucket or the other. One bucket is to enjoy the game. The other bucket is to be negative about it. And the one that tips the scales is wherever you put the most grains of rice. And so what is the equivalent of putting in a grain of rice? It is the choices you make, the way you think about it. Like, look at this. This is nighttime. Are you kidding me? Nighttime doesn't look like this, and I can choose to be real good and bothered about that, because I think it's horrible. This is not nighttime. Nighttime should look like this, or close to it. And that's why we have that thing, and I'm really thankful for that. But people say it's hard to see when it's on the video. And so, you know, it's a choice. This doesn't look like nighttime at all. It feels like I'm playing during the day, but there's some stars out. And I can focus on that. Or I can focus on the fact that it's really cool that there's those portals there. In fact, I don't know if you can go through that one backwards, but you focus on the things you want. And so if I focus on how I don't like that, I'm putting a little bit, like one grain of rice on the negative side of the scale. Whereas if I focus on, oh, those birds are really nice, that looks cool, and it's kind of fun to fly around here and remember when I was leveling through this place. And then I put a grain of rice in the happy side of the scale, the I enjoy the game side of the scale. And it's really where you put your attention that determines how you feel. And so my suggestion to everyone is this, is put your effort toward the thing that will get you the outcome that makes you happy. If you're going to play World of Warcraft, you're going to play it. If you're not, you're not. And that's something only you can decide. But it does not come down to the nighttime doesn't look like nighttime. It doesn't come down to raid difficulties. Not really. Because really right now, I do LFR once a week. I don't even do all of them. I do, whatever I feel like I've got. If I've got a quest for one, or if I just feel like doing one, that's what I do. I gotta DE some stuff. But I'll go pug some normals here and there, just to get things done, and then I'll go do ahead of the curve. I'll either join a group or I'll cheat and pay someone to, whatever, because that's what I value. And I don't care if there's a gap between mythic difficulty and heroic difficulty that is so big it cannot justify the difference in rewards. I've got an opinion about it, and I think that there's a way that it could be that would be more beneficial to the game, but it doesn't really affect me. Who gets the world first? It has no impact on whether or not I enjoy playing the game. And so we should all be a little more focused on what we are choosing to pay attention to. and how it affects us. Pay attention to the things that make you enjoy the game more, and just ignore the things that don't, because it's not worth your time. And if you do that, if you set all this up right in your mind, you'll have a much better time. And isn't that really what it's about? It's about having fun. It's about playing a game that you can enjoy. So that's the point of view that I choose to take. I choose to enjoy playing the game because I want to have fun. I want to enjoy it. And I occupy myself with the things that reinforce that point of view. Because there's really no way to be truly objective about this. It is all subjectivity. It's all about what you choose to make yourself believe. A lot of things, but whether or not World of Warcraft is fun, it's impossible to be objective about that because it's a completely subjective thing. Do you think it's fun? Are you having fun? If you're not, and you still want to play, then it is completely up to you to make it fun. And you do that by choosing which things you're going to pay attention to. Are you going to pay attention to this Slutmoggy Blood Elf with a weird guild name? Or are you going to pay attention to this one over here, dancing in a pretty nice transmog? There's no right or wrong answer here. They're just different. Which one do you enjoy? Pay attention to that one, the one you enjoy. So anyway, I think I've blah blah blahed for long enough, but I hope that all of you or anyone who watches this video in the future and actually makes it through all hour or so of it, I hope that you end up enjoying the game more because you choose to. And really, that's the only way that you can do it. If you don't enjoy the game enough, then make different decisions. Decide to. And focus on the things that reinforce that. Because whether you think the game is fun or think it's not, you're right either way. Because you only changed it for yourself. Other people, you can influence them because they choose to listen to the majority. They choose to listen to what other people think because it matters to them. The fact is, it doesn't really matter. What other people think of whether or not something's fun is completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Don't pay attention to it. Pay attention to what you like and focus on that and let everything else work itself out over time. So anyway, thank you everyone for watching. It is time for me to get some sleep, and I will be back on for another stream as soon as another opportunity presents itself. Now I'm going to try and shut this off with such a timing that I can say, "Okay, thanks, bye," right. So get ready for it. Okay, thanks, bye.